Hello again, everyone. Saki here, and welcome to Kerbal Space Program to the Early Access. And we are taking the Kerbal X2 stock craft out for a spin. I didn't build it myself, of course. It's designed to be stable, and I want to make sure that I got my sea legs under me. We have Jebediah Jetfril and Tim C. Kerman ready to go to Minmus today, as it's easier to get to than the moon. And yeah, we'll see if I know what I'm doing here. Here on the launch pad, ready to go, but before we go, we have to do a little bit of planning here. So if we were going to the moon, just going direct 90 degrees is the way to go, as it lines up right with the equator. However, Minmus is a little different. Minmus, if we set that as a target and highlight its orbit, we can see that it is inclined just a little bit. So if we look at where the orbit crosses the equator, let's say right there, you can see that it's off about 5 degrees. If we were to launch now, we couldn't really do it. We need to launch when the Kerbal Space Center is right crossing the orbit of Minmus, which is not now, but it will be on the backside. So if we can just wait until the Kerbal Space Center lines up with the white line from Minmus, and it crosses right there at the equator, all we have to do is launch east-southeast, just barely, to get in line as Minmus is going this way. So all we have to do is launch just south. I mean, not much. We still want to be going mainly east, but an east-southeast would get us pretty close, I hope. That's my hope and goal. So let's wait until the Kerbal Space Center is about right here. All right, I would say that is fairly close. The white line would be crossing Kerbin at the equator from here. So yeah, let's launch east-southeast if we can with this nighttime launch. Kerbals at the ready. We'll go, let's say 80% throttle. This mainsail can do the work. And 3, 2, 1. Outstanding. Let's get that tower clear. And let's go east-southeast. So we'll still turn toward the 90, start getting that speed up, but ever so slightly just above the 90, like right about there. That's as far as we want to go. Just 5 degrees, like going at the 85. So we definitely do not want to be going, or I'm sorry, at the 95. We definitely don't want to be going to the 100 degree. We'll just keep it as close to the 90 as we can now. Pitch over just a little bit, let that mainsail do the work. Apoapс is climbing. And one thing we have to get ready for is rotating the spacecraft just a bit so that those solid rocket boosters go to either side of the Mastodon and not smash into said Mastodon. So let's continue our ascent, 13,000. We'll pitch over a little bit more, but we're getting to the point now where, you know, speed is increasing. If we try to deviate from that, there we go, separation. If we try to deviate too much from prograde, it's gonna be like sticking your hand out the window of a moving car. It's gonna start throwing this thing all over the place. We're letting the rocket sort of fly itself. Once we see about 85K, we'll go ahead and cut the engine and coast on up to our Apoapse. And while we're here, let's get full speed out of this thing, start guzzling that fuel. We're almost into space right there. And we'll wait until 85 and give her the good old cut. And we'll coast on up from here. All right, almost to that magical 70K, where we will be completely out of the atmosphere right there. Let's go ahead and deploy our solar panels while we have electric charge, although I haven't seen this craft use any electric charge, but our solar panels will be ready for that sunrise when we get there. 1 minute away from our Apoapse. I think I'll burn at about 30 seconds ahead. We could put a maneuver node, but we'll just modulate the Apoapse manually using our orbital info. All right, and there is 30 seconds. Let's let the rocket settle. And full power there. Watch that periapse climb. And we're climbing our Apoapse just a bit since we're above the equator on our nav ball. And we were actually pushing our Apoapse a little bit further away, which I don't want to do. We want to stay as close to the apoaps as we can. So we raised our apoaps to 90K or thereabouts, so no worse for the wear. And how about 14 seconds? We'll go ahead and pick up a little bit of speed. Once we get closer to the apoaps, we'll go faster or put in more thrust, but we're almost out of delta V for this section. So we'll give it the beans for this last little bit, do the staging, and go into time warp 2X to get that separator off. The Kerbal X2 seems to not want to separate as far as that stage is concerned, so we don't want to be blasting all of that into the fuel tank. That would be inconducive to nothing. Oh, cool. Oh, we're past the apoaps. I was going to say we actually caught up a bit, but now we're raising it up. We'll cut once it's close to 89 if we can get it circular. Outstanding. So 102 by 87. No worries, no fears. We are in orbit, but one thing I want to see is our inclination, and 2.8 degrees, so we managed to shave 3 degrees off of the inclination, which is all well and good. In order to get lined up, however, we need to wait for our ascending and descending node. So we can see that crossing here, we'll be going under it by 2.8 degrees. So we need to put in a maneuver here, and we need to go normal there. Raise that up just a skosh so that no matter when we launch, we are within plane. And booyah, pretty much as even as you can get. 0.0, that'll be 110 meters per second delta V in 13 minutes. And since we're on the daylight side, no time like the present, we will go ahead and rotate on and time accelerate up to our maneuver node here. And 17 seconds away, we know we need to go normal. We really don't need a maneuver node, but this is going to help us sort of keep track of how much thrust we need, and we don't need much. We're actually not going to go full power on this. Oh yeah, I guess we're going to need to. So not so much pep in the Poodle engine. 2, 1, and cut. So we should be pretty much in line with Minmus now, indeed, 0 degrees. And it's just a matter of time of getting out there, which it kind of looks like we're almost set up to do now. If I give her the beans and raise our apoaps out to meet Minmus, we'll see how far off we are. Hopefully we don't get an encounter with the moon on the way. That's always something you have to be considerate of. So yes, indeed, right there we do have an entrance and exit of Minmus's sphere of influence in 20 seconds. All right, let's get it done. Get it pointed to the maneuver, and 14 seconds away, in quick succession, it'll be 921 meters a second from our 2,500 in the tank, and this burn will be a little bit longer, let's say. 1 and full power. This thing will be a 1-minute burn, so we will see you on the other side. And 10 seconds away, that orbit is going to start growing really exponentially, and what I'll do is I'll finish up the maneuver with RCS thrusters. So once we get the cut order, we'll go ahead and cut so we don't pass it up, and we'll just use the RCS thrusters. Yeah, we'll hold that there, turn on RCS, and go forward a bit. And it's taken, quite a bit of RCS. Granted, we don't have the strongest RCS thrusters in the world, but we're making our ship lighter for the landing. Yeah, we're actually gaining a little bit of delta V as we are burning off this monopropellant. And we're at the point of the orbit now that the apoaps is raising quite quickly with our RCS thrusters, so we'll meet Minmus's orbit soon enough. So using about over half of our monopropellant, but there we go, we're starting to get an encounter with Minmus. We can see the entry and exit point here, so we'll just continue boosting forward until we basically do a flyby right there or so. And that should 97K, 65K, 18K. That's certainly not bad. I like that. So SAS off, RCS off. We are cruising now away from Kerbin, and we'll be at Minmus shortly. And right at the sphere of influence, bam, there we go. And there is Minmus with its 13K periaps. I'm not sure if that is high enough. I actually might go radial out a bit, just to make sure that we don't slam into Minmus, and we'll just use RCS thrusters for this as well. There we go, I had a little bit of time acceleration on, got that sorted. And we'll raise that up to, let's say, 20K, and just using a little bit of RCS monopropellant. Now let's set up for our big circularization burn right here at the periaps. So getting the apoaps and periaps to almost flip, meaning that they're pretty close in altitude. It's 183 meters a second in 2 hours time. All right, 2 minutes 35 out. This will put us in a 19.5 by 21, so 1,500 meters. Difference? Outstanding. Let's take a look at the big sherbert, and we'll try to land in one of these flats if possible. All right, with SAS on, let's go ahead and get on our maneuver node here and get ready to go. Thankfully, we're on the light side, so solar panels will be getting everything they can out of it. T-minus 10. Craft is settling. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Full power. And we can see that apoaps drop down quick, fast, and in a hurry. And cut. And let's just use our RCS thrusters to bring that right down if we can. We'll go ahead and go retrograde here. And using that monopropellant, our periaps is dropping about the same as our apoaps, unfortunately. So we're past our peri. And it's, no, we're not gonna crash. Get rid of that. There we go. So a 20.6 by 14. I still think we're gonna be good on the 14, but let's do a little bit of a radial out right around here to sort of raise that up. And that'll be just a 3 meter a second burn, and I mean, we can RCS thruster as far as that's concerned. Matter of fact, turn off RCS for now. We don't need RCS just yet, but in 6 minutes we will. Awesome, let's just freehand it here. We'll go radial out, turn on RCS, and just give us a little bit of a boost here. And the periaps and apoaps are coming together nicely, sort of rounding out the orbit. And we're almost out of monopropellant, however, so this will be sort of the last thing we do. But yeah, 16.6 by 18.4. Yeah, we sort of went past the best point here. So 17 by 18, just 1,000 meters difference, 1 kilometer. And now, SAS and RCS off, we need to find ourselves a landing place, which, looking on the light side, will be coming over the flats right about at our apoap. So what we'll do is basically just do this by hand. We'll kill off all of our orbital speed over this lake, and that will allow us to drop straight to the moon's surface, and we should float nice and easy into a well-lit lake. At least that is the hope and goal. SAS on retrograde. And let's give it the beans. 2-1-0 cut. Outstanding. Let's go ahead and switch to surface mode, and we can see that we're moving at 12 meters a second, sort of slippy. Let's use the last of this RCS thruster to sort of kill out that lateral surface speed. Okay, so we're out of monopropellant. Outstanding. Just a squeeze more, and once we come to a complete stop, we'll be falling straight down. And we got the safety approach. Let's turn retrograde here. Go, there we go, regular speed so that the craft orientates itself. Now, one thing you might notice, that I certainly did, is there's no landing gear on this lander. Well, it's really not even a lander, is it? But we're gonna land on the bells. Luckily, the gravity isn't so bad that we're gonna come slamming into the ground. We'll be able to set it down nice and easy on the bells and then use SAS to keep this thing sort of upright is our hope and goal. How you all Kerbals doing in there? Doing okay? That's what I like to see. 8,000 meters to the ground. 2,000 meters now. Let's start slowing down. Just give a little bit of thrust so we're not using much delta V at all. We should have a nice shadow as well. This actually might be a little bit too much thrust. We don't want to start going back up, that is for sure. 600 meters. Try to keep it in terms of 10. So if we see we're 300 meters above the ground, try to keep 30 meters per second, that sort of thing. Cool. So the final 200 meters will be a nice coast. We're not going to pick up that much surface speed. Let's go straight up, as I think we killed off our lateral. And should be, yep, there is shadow. Switch to ground camera. Yeah, we don't need much thrust at all, maybe 5%? Yeah, and still slowing down at 5. Just 5% on and off toggle. And cut and stand. All right, SAS, take control. So as we're balancing here, I think we're okay, but I don't want to turn off the SAS because it's still rocking. It's not stable like it would be with landing legs. Do we dare? No, not. Kerbals are going to get out, and we don't want them knocking the rocket over. All right, Jebediah on EVA, outstanding. Come on down, Jebediah, let go. And float on down, if you will. Onto the RCS. It's a shame we can't jettison those now that they're empty. But Jebediah, welcome to Minmus. Kind of a bit of a floaty guy. Oh, don't you yawn at me. All right, Jeb, what I need you to do is to plant the flag, if you please. Sokka is here. Jebediah will do the honors. Outstanding. Nice to see, for sure. Jedful Kerman is next out. Down you go. Same trip as Jebediah. Onto the RCS and down. And Jebediah's doing a jig. Happy to be here. Happy to see ya. And Tim C. Kerman last out of the pod. Sure, it's dangerous to not have a Kerbal in the lander, but what could possibly go wrong? Come on down, Tim. So a group photo here, and it looked like Jedfil had her hair sticking out the back, but that's just her EVA pack. I was gonna say, don't take your helmet off now. No, I told you, don't take your helmet off. But no time like the present to get back aboard. Come on, Tim, up you go. And don't smash into those solar panels, please. And luckily with Minmus, you can get around fairly easily. With your jetpack, go ahead and board there, Tim. Jedful, if you please. Outstanding. Go ahead and hop up. Not into the solar panel, please. Oh, you don't have monopropellant deprived. Well, I think I know how to fix this. Let me do a save and reload. All right, Jedful, do you have your... Yes, she does. Outstanding. So a save reload was enough to get her EVA monopropellant. And we don't need much here. Go ahead and board if you please. We really need a ladder on this thing, to be fair. And last but not least, Jebediah, if you please, go ahead and fly on up. Don't hit the solar panels. That would be a tremendous catastrophe. But once all Kerbals are on, we will be ready to head back to Kerbin. Don't push the rocket over. And all are aboard. All right, let's get down to the 90. You all ready to go? Little bit of thrust. Pitch over pretty quick. No need to climb out of any atmosphere here. There we go at the 45 and go ahead and go prograde. We'll give it a little bit more thrust and get up to say 25K. 27.1 is fine. So we'll go ahead and coast on up to 27,000 and avoid the mountains if you please. And just flying by the big peak, it's definitely a bit of a valley of sherbet, that is for sure. It's nice that those flats are here for our landing purposes though. And yeah, halfway up to our apoapse, we should be there shortly. 10 seconds away from our apoapse, we definitely do not need much throttle to get up to 26K, just at 35%. And booyah, in orbit 29.3 by 26.5. That is close enough for government work. And now we are in orbit, and it's time to head home. So getting back home, essentially, pretend that Minmus isn't here, that we are in an orbit like so. So how do we get back to Kerbin? Obviously, we burn retrograde, so we are going to want to leave Minmus in a retrograde fashion against its direction of travel, which means we need to burn prograde in this way, and we'll essentially be flying against the rotation of Minmus and against the orbit of Kerbin, and that will lower our apoapse once we leave, and we should be all set. So I've got that there as a bit of a timer, and yeah, let's head on that way. All right, almost to the orbit line. We can see that Minmus is following this path. Once our orbit crosses that, we should be good to burn. Let's just turn on SAS prograde so that we start leaving this place, and you can see how tenuous our orbit is just moving the spacecraft. Change those calculations. But once we get right about here, let's give it the beans, and off we go. Raise that apoapse up, and once we leave the sphere of influence, we will watch and see what that does to our overall. So it says we're going to be exiting Kerbin's sphere of influence, but nah, I don't see it. We're going, retrograde in relation to the orbit. So let's just leave Minmus's sphere of influence here. And we have slowed down significantly compared to Minmus. I mean, that we're flying, retrograde. And yes, indeed, you can see that we actually lowered our periapse down to here. Now, if we're going to be efficient about this, we're going to wait till our apoapse and lower it on that way. So without further ado and delay, yeah, let's turn off our SAS so we don't burn up any electric charge, and time warp on around. Yeah, and our apoapse is going crazy here. It was saying like 5 hours, and then like, is this legit? Is it actually an hour and a half away? I think it might be. Yeah, 30 minutes away. Outstanding. So yep, all we have to do is just basically do things on a much bigger scale. SAS on to the retro, flip her around, and then give her the beans. 7 million, 6 million, 5 million, 4 million, 3 million, with still plenty of fuel to go. That's what I like to see. What we'll do... Oh, we're entering the moon sphere of influence? Yeah, let's just keep burning on that so we don't get caught up with the moon. That's a little bit inconvenient. But we are able to slow up enough that we can get down to 55K, drop into the atmosphere for a bit to slow ourselves down and pull in that orbit without spending any fuel to do it. All right, almost 100K, safety would say. Go ahead and pull in our solar panels so we don't burn them up, but there's no reentry heating as of now. We'll just let the spaceship bounce around naturally, lower our orbit, and see if we can get lucky and get the Kerbal Space Center. Oh man. Yeah, if we burned hard, we could sort of force that, but that would be a lot of fuel. I don't know if we could do it this early. We would have to plan ahead for that. So we'll go around once and see where the Space Center is. And now that we're interacting with the atmosphere, the apoapsis is dropping and we're not even doing anything, getting down to 54,000 meters at our lowest point. So yeah, really bringing that down. The only concern I would have is if we lowered our periapse so much that we do intersect with the moon in some fashion. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. All right, we're coming in quick. The Kerbal Space Center is behind. I don't think we can essentially punch our way through, so it's not a good time. But you can see we're interacting with the moon just ever so slightly here, but I don't think that's going to be the case. Once we get into the atmosphere, it's going to lower our apoaps away from this orbit, so I don't think we have anything to worry about here. Yeah, there we go. Now that we're interacting with the atmosphere, dropping our apoaps is going to go under the... Dang. Now, if we could get... I was going to say, if we could get like a shot from the moon and then vaulted into the Kerbal Space Center, that would be quite intense. But our orbit's going to be below the moon after this pass, and we can sort of do things by hand. Now, with us having a smaller orbit and a smaller orbit time, we may be able to be cheeky on this pass, as it looks like the KSC will be right near where our periaps is going to be. We can sort of adjust that as needed. Now, I think by the time it comes around, it's going to be passing under. But we may get lucky on the next pass. And this is one of those things, too. If you knew the, how long a Kerbin day is and then how long your orbit is, you could adjust the size of your orbit to be awesome. But I'm not a mathematician in that way. I'm not that good. So we'll just play it by ear until we get lucky. But I don't have to be. This tells me that the apoaps is 1 day away over here. So is that a 2-day total trip? But, I mean, as the apoaps comes down, if we could do, like, say, quarter days per rotation, that way the Kerbal Space Center will make, steps each time around, we'll see. So we'll kind of do this by hand. Let's raise up our apoapsis to about 75K. So we stop lowering our apoaps. There we go, 77K. So we will no longer be dipping into the atmosphere and slowing down. We're 12 seconds from our apoaps and 2 hours and 43. So that's, 5.5 hours? So we can eyeball and see where the Kerbal Space Center is whenever we reach our periaps and sort of get a feel on, are we gaining on it or losing? So it's on the backside just at the terminator. And it's closer. So maybe 1 or 2 more orbits is all we need, and we might just lower our periaps and see what we got here. Yeah, so that time it's a quarter between the terminator and our periaps. So 2 more orbits, I think, and we're going to be coming down. Yeah, we're almost on top of it now. So once we get out to our apoaps, next orbit, it should be right over us. So once we get out to our apoaps, we'll put our entry or our final destination, say, right about here, and that should drop us fairly close. All right, 12 seconds, go retrograde. Actually, I mean, we could wait until we were, say, right about here, but let's give it a little bit of throttle. And we'll watch and see where that periaps ends up. We want to sort of fly over a little bit, let's say 14K. So that will give us time to get in, start slowing down, but I think the KSC will be... I don't want to slow down too aggressively. Let's just see what we got here. So 14K altitude at our periaps, where the KSC should be right about here. All right, we're catching up. I don't know if that's too aggressive or not. What we can do is we can keep the ship intact. There's no reheating, so we're not really in any danger. And then we'll just adjust fire from there. So coming into the atmosphere this time, let's see if we can pace the Space Center a bit. All right, interacting with the atmosphere now, and I believe that's the Space Center there. So we might have to throw on the engines a bit and really slow down here. Yeah, as a matter of fact, let's go ahead and burn. All right, let's cut engines. Coast a little bit. I can see the runway and the launch pads. And we're definitely in the atmosphere now and slowing. It's tough from this point of view. All right, yeah, full power. Let's slow down as much as we can, burn up all of this fuel, and then separate our pod. Really trying to get this thing woed up, but yeah, that is definitely the KSC. Slowing down here. So full power, 2,300 meters a second and slowing. There is the Space Center right below us, 150 meters per second delta V left, and that is it. Separation. Yeah, get off of there, capsule. There we go. Capsule is free, so we'll be in the water just past the Space Center here. And I was going to say we could hit the island runway. We can see a little bit there, and we're almost coming straight down. So KSC right there, island runway right there. We didn't miss it by much. I should have got on the gas a little bit earlier, but if they were leaving from the island, they don't have far to pick us up. All right, it looks like we're picking up a little bit more surface speed. Parachute, drogue chute away. And yes, indeed, starting to slow. 2,000 meters, island still in sight, coming. It's a shame we can't see the Space Center on the horizon, but it's just that way. Parachute is now open, and let's set her down in the water. 50 meters now, there is the Shadow coming in back first. How many G's? Not too awful bad. Chute disconnect. And yeah, let's see if old Jebediah can swim once this thing gets settled, I suppose. Uh-oh. SAS on. Okay, you good? You're not gonna wig out on me anymore, are you? All right, Jebediah, let's see if you remember your life-saving endeavors. And yes, indeed, Jebediah can swim. Outstanding. And he can climb on. Wow, this thing's like a carnival ride. Jebediah, get on before things go terribly wrong. Yeah, let's go ahead and recover before the Kerbals start throwing up in their visors. So that is a mission in Kerbal Space Program 2. Would you like to see more missions? Would you like me to go more places? I'm, just at the mercy of this early access, so I don't know what's broken, what isn't, if my computer will even survive. But if you want to see me do a whole science run of Kerbal Space Program 1, playlist says there at the end. But like, share, and subscribe if you are so bold. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next Kerbal Space Program video. Take care.